There is blind justice, and then there is trading justice, so that you can finally afford to get that laser eye surgery. Not only will people find you more attractive once you ditch those old glasses, you'll be able to see your charts better. That's what we call win-win. Speaking of winning, it's time for a little trading justice, brought to you by tackletrading.com.
Okay, welcome out to the Trading Justice Podcast. Love that intro. We're trying some new audio drops here lately. We're trying to make a little fun of ourselves. My name is Tim Justice. I'm your host. We've got our producer here with us as well, Phil. Phil, hello. And got a special guest here today, Steve Huang. Steve Huang is back on the podcast, I think, for the third time. Is that right, Steve?
That sounds right. Hey, everyone.
Yeah. You know, if you've not listened to Steve's previous podcast, you can go back and find him. Search for him at tackletrading.com or on iTunes, our Trading Justice page on iTunes. We're going to even be putting some of them up on YouTube. But Steve has a tremendous background. And Steve, why don't you run everybody a little bit through that? Just give us a quick, history of Steve Huang.
Sure, no problem, Tim. Let's see, where can I start? I'm a Rich Dad education student. Back then it was called Tigrent, and I started taking classes back in 2010. I remember sitting in the first class. It was a stock success class where they're just telling us a little bit about options, and I didn't even know what a call or a put was back then. But when I saw how you can take advantage of leverage and how you can limit your risk, I was absolutely floored. I got hooked, and I decided I wanted more. So I put down a good chunk of money, about $25,000, to buy 4 courses and a mentorship. Took the courses, loved them, ended up doing mentorship with you, Tim, in Salt Lake City, Utah. Loved it so much, I came back a year later and did another mentorship with you. And both times were just amazing. It propelled my career, and things have been great. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun getting to know you over the years. You know, I remember those mentorships. They weren't that long ago, if you think about it, in the grand scheme of things. I think it was probably, 2010 that we did our first one. That's 5 years ago. People get all worried about, getting out to the races on their trading in their first week or month. And I tell them, look at the big picture. Where are you going to be in 5 years? Where are you going to be in 3 years? Are you going to build your business the right way? You spent a lot of time doing that. You have a background in education, but also professional, in environments as well. You were a corporate lawyer for a long time, I guess, Steve, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I started out as a trial attorney. So went to Tulane Law, graduated in 98, and all I wanted to be was a litigator. So started out mixing it up in the courtrooms, and then moved on to become a corporate transactional attorney, which I did for probably the last 12 years or so.
Now, you've recently gotten away from that profession, and in fact, are you even working doing that anymore?
No, I'm fully unemployed right now.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, so it's a great thing. So I resigned from my job, and now I am a full-time trader. So that was my last day on the job. Well, technically, I'm on paternity leave right now, and when those benefits run out, then my employment will end at my last company, and then I'll be a full-time trader.
I like it. I think it's pretty awesome. And a big part of your journey, Steve, has been a mindset change as well. When you first started trading, when you first started taking the classes, you actually had a very traditional way of thinking about money and education. You had gone through and gotten a law degree. I think you have an MBA as well. Is that right?
Right, I did. I went to USC and finished up in 2004 and dove right into the solar energy industry. And put my MBA to use. What the best education out of all of it really was Tigrent. That's the one that actively put money into my pocket.
Yeah.
So that's the one I enjoyed the most. I had no problem staying awake for those kind of classes.
Yeah, and it's a testament to you to go back and actually commit to, continued education and learning. A lot of people do. Most of our listeners probably have that mindset, have been willing to do that at some point in their life. If you keep your wallet closed and you never pay anybody to teach you anything, you're going to be really limited. I understand we have a do-it-yourself attitude in this world lately for a lot of people, but really, you can't really do all of it. At some point, you got to bring somebody onto your power team and either show you how to do something, teach you how to do something, or give you their system. And you're actually looking towards getting into that at some point. We'll get into that a little bit later, into the education side of it as well. But I want to talk a little bit about your trading system. So as you've been developing this over the years, Steve, kind of just, how did it start? How did it evolve? And where are you at today?
Sure, no problem. So I started it was funny. I remember sitting in that stock success class and thinking to myself, there is no way I would ever want to be a day trader. So I'm going to be a swing trader right from the get-go, and that's all I'm going to be. So I started out as a swing trader, and what I began with was trading mostly naked puts. And everything was fine, and then ended up getting rocked when the financial crisis hit. It's just one bad thing after another. My account was taking hits left and right. At that point, I decided I needed help, and that's when I came to you for help with risk management and position sizing. We went along a little bit further from there and continued swing trading, and then I got rocked again. And at that point, I realized I needed to learn about hedging and day trading hedging at a much more professional level, and then also how to day trade, because that way I could learn how to take advantage of the intraday movements. It was funny because even though I was swing trading and I didn't want to be a day trader, I don't know what happened. Just I naturally ended up becoming better as a day trader. And so now I still do some swing trading, but my natural personality is much more as a day trader, and that's where my best talents lie. So if anybody asks me what kind of trader I am now, I would have to tell them I'm a day trader.
Yeah. Well, and, it's a skill set that can be learned. A lot of people get into this stuff and they think that they know what they want to be. But many times what I've found over the years is that you learn to experience it. And some people are built to day trade, some people are not. Some people are better built to swing trade. Some people are better built to position trade. Even take that a step further, Steve. Some people are naturally good at directional trading, and others are very, very poor at it. You kind of have to build enough experience to be able to make an educated and informed decision about what business model is best for you. And there's no real replacement to trading and learning the markets as they develop. And this is where, choosing the right broker tools, learning how to use those tools, but also, focusing in can be very important. By the way, as you've gone through this and as you've learned to day trade, what is it about day trading do you like the most?
I love how it's fast. I like how if you're wrong, really quickly, and you can just get out and just start a new trade. And I like how you don't have overnight risk. So you start the day flat with no positions on, and you end the day flat with no positions on. And I don't have to worry about gapping. I don't have to worry about some strange event coming out of nowhere. I also like how if there's something crazy going on in the markets, you could actually see it developing, right before it actually happens. And so you can, the option of jumping on it and taking advantage if you want. So there's a lot to like about it. And the funny thing, Tim, is I remember sitting in your car in Salt Lake City, and you were asking me, hey, do you want to get really good at being a day trader? And I remember back then telling you, no, I have no desire to become a really good day trader. I just want to be a swing trader and have the ability to day trade if I see some intraday movements. But all those things that I talked about before have completely changed my mind, and it's made me want to be much more of a day trader and absolutely love it with a passion.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, as a mentor, part of what I have to do whenever I bring somebody into my office and work with them, and I've been doing that for a long time, pretty dang good at it. One of the things I have to do is at least plant the seed on different things so that they can understand why somebody does what they do. I was teaching a class the other day, Steve, and I used the analogy that imagine I was writing the newsletter actually for Tackle Trading, and I used the analogy. Imagine if you went to a courtroom and you were the prosecuting attorney for a murder case. and you had done all of your research, you had all of your witnesses lined up, you knew exactly what you were going to do, how you're going to present the case, you were going to go for opening arguments. And in some cosmic twist where the world could just mess with you in this way, the judge says when you walk in the courtroom, I changed my mind, you're not the prosecutor, you're now the defense attorney. Could you argue the other side of the case? And the reason I asked that hypothetical, the reason I asked the hypothetical is so that people can think about it like this. If I'm trading and I'm bullish, if I can't equally understand why somebody's bearish, then I don't understand the position well enough.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I read that, I immediately thought about day trading, because there's a lot of times where you'll start out the day, I don't know, let's just say you're bullish on the day, and it just turns out you're completely wrong. You're completely wrong, and then you turn around and just trade bearishly and then end up doing just fine on the day. And that's exactly the case. And you never know which side you're going to take coming in. You might have an idea, hey, maybe I'm coming in for the prosecution today, but then who knows? You might end up on the defense side later on.
And as you've gone through your trading journey and you've kind of built some of these skill sets and this perspective and quite a great deal of experience, what other systems have you tested out, and what other lessons have you learned maybe to not do?
Boy, I tried so many systems. I actually bought systems online that I read about, and boy, I don't want to name any names, but I remember one guy, he said, hey, listen, I'll show you my account. This is where I'm at, and this is how it's grown over time. I'll publish all my trades. So I subscribed to his service. It was expensive. It was over $1,000, and followed all his trades. And after about 8 months, my $100,000 account had dropped to about like $71,000. And thank God I was just paper trading it. I didn't do it live, but that was one experience where I thought this is not really it. But what I really learned is no matter what kind of system you get, it's really difficult to just follow what somebody tells you to do. It's first thing is when you learn a system, you have to learn the guts of the system. You learn exactly why things are being done a certain way. And once you learn why, then you'll be able to adjust when you see the market conditions coming. After that, there's always a certain degree of discretion that you can exercise with systems. So you can decide whether you want to be a little more aggressive or a little bit more conservative, things like that. But all that has to play in together. You've got to adapt that system.
Hold on. We're trying to land a plane here. Let's make sure we hit the runway well. Hold on a sec. Big loud noise is probably a garbage truck. I'm guessing you're working from home. Is that right? Is it garbage day there in Southern California?
I don't know what it is, but my office. So I've got an old one of the bedrooms in our home that I converted to an office, and it's right next to a street. It's not a busy street, but it's got regular traffic going by. So a truck must have rolled by just now.
Oh, I love it. No, I sometimes. Here in my house, I've got a probably 25-year-old house here in Salt Lake City. Well, it's in West Jordan, and just a nice old home. We like it. We've lived here for 10 years now. My kids love the neighborhood, friends, the whole thing. But because I have to constantly hide from my kids when I need a moment of peace and quiet, I have a desk in my basement. I have a desk in my garage, which is a standing workspace, and that I kind of work at sometimes. Then I have a desk upstairs in my bedroom as well. So I kind of wander around my house, let alone sometimes I'll sit at the kitchen table or out on the back patio. So I'm constantly moving around working from home. And when I work in the garage, Steve, and it's garbage day, you'll know it. If I'm on the phone with you, you'll hear the garbage truck roll by. So I completely get it. It's really a great thing, though, if you think about it. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there listening thinking, man, you guys got it. You got to work from home. You've had that opportunity recently to be able to go back home, spend more time at home, test these systems out, start to really focus completely on your trading. Do you like it? Do you like working from home with the family around and the kids and the neighborhood and the whole 9 yards?
Oh, I love it. I've actually been working from home since 2007, actually. But being able to really focus in on trading, and it hasn't happened until just recently. But man, Tim, I got to tell you, it's I haven't been able to really hone in on trading yet. It's kind of funny because ever since I stopped working at my job, it's like one crazy thing has happened after another. Like I can't even tell you. Like our refrigerator broke, then our hot water system broke, then my garage door opener broke, TV broke down, my computer keyboard broke down, our toilet stopped working. It was one thing after another. So I've been running around like crazy taking care of things. But with that said, the good thing is when I have time, I love having the ability to sit down and analyze these systems and just do my own back testing without having to feel like, hey, I really should be working, or I really should take this phone call or that phone call related to work. It's really based on my own schedule now, and it's amazing. I love it, Tim. Absolutely love it.
Now, and we're going to get into some of your specifics of your system here in a little bit, but maybe one thing we could do for our audience, I was just thinking about this, is kind of define what a trading system is. Every trader needs to have discipline and routine and an approach, and they need to know when they trade. They've got to build certain skill sets. But a trading system actually assumes a very specific type of approach, doesn't it? Maybe talk a little bit about that. What is it in a system?
Yeah, it's I did a presentation on this a little while ago, and it's, to me, a system incorporates a lot of different elements to it. First thing, it's got to be replicable. So I hear all the time about people who put on a trade, maybe bought like a bunch of calls and ended up pulling in like $40,000-$50,000 on gold or whatnot, and that's a great trade. It's a great result. But it's not a system. A system is something that you can rely on. You're going to regularly produce results with that system. Mm-hmm. And the regularity, to me, it's not so important how regular it is. It doesn't matter if it's once a year or if it's twice a year or 3 times a year. It's just something that is going to happen over and over and over again. At the same time, to me, a system is something where you've got clearly defined entry signals, so you know exactly when you're going to enter the trade, and you've got clearly defined exit signals. You know when you're going to take profit, you know when you're going to manage the trade, you know how you're going to hedge it, things like that. And all those ideas and rules have to be in mind before you even enter the trade. So to me, that's another element of the system. Third element is that, Tim, I could go on and on and on, but I think a third element is you move away from looking at just individual trades, but you look at how all your trades work together to bring a combined result, which is hopefully profitability at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And system-based trading, it can include more than one strategy, by the way. In fact, hedging could be a part of it, but in many systems, it's actually 1 or 2 different techniques, isn't it? It's like focusing on how to perfect a butterfly, or how to trade a butterfly in these specific conditions, or a credit spread, or, how to day trade Forex in the morning when the market's open or around news events. Many traders that have taken classes might even think of, a strategy as a system. What are the differences, do you think, between just a pure strategy and an actual system?
I think a strategy is just something that you might throw out. Like maybe you see something happening in the market and you want to take advantage of it. Like, for example, let's say you see, let's say you see Netflix dropping today really hard, and you think, I'm going to go ahead and put on a bear call and make some money off of that. Mm-hmm. That strategy is a standalone trade. It's not, it's just you put the trade on and you hope to make money from it. Nothing wrong with that, but it's not a system. A system is more like you're looking at, let's say you've got a bunch of trades on and they're all positive delta. So let's say they're calls, bull puts, naked puts, whatsoever, whatever they may be. And then you see the market turning, but you're not sure what's going to happen yet. So you decide ahead of time, listen, I'm going to look for a bearish stock and I'm going to start putting some bearish trades in. So that way it'll offset some of this positive delta if the market turns against me. That kind of thing. So what you have is a new trade working in combination with your old trades to make sure that the idea is that if you take a hit, that you never really take a mind-blowing hit at any given time, that all the trades are working together for you. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think that's right. Even if you take the name of a strategy, like let's say a naked put, obviously there are so many different ways to trade naked puts, whether you sell weeklies, whether you use portfolio margin, whether you sell it in a margin account, or whether you do it on ETFs or indexes or, whatever, individual stocks, $10 stocks, $50 stocks, $100 stocks. To get it to a system type level, you have to fill in every little component: how you find your candidates, how you qualify your candidates, how you build your trade, how you manage your trade. The goal out there, if you're listening to the podcast here with Steve and I, and by the way, it's Steve Huang and Tim Justice here with Phil, just kind of talking trading, talking systems today. If you're listening to the podcast, is to really develop a system. Yay! Phil's going to be having too much fun, Steve. And it's not just to learn strategies. Now, you need to learn strategies to be able to implement a system, but system is probably that next level, and really that's what you need. And Steve, that's one of the things that you're here to talk about, is your specific system that you're going to be introducing and doing some videos on and presenting it as a system, a complete system for traders out there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. But Tim, let me, if you don't mind, let me talk a little bit about what made me realize what a system was first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember, Tim, when I came out for that second mentorship, you said something to me that really opened up my eyes. You told me that managing an account is a little bit like driving a car. Like when you drive a car, there's certain times where you can accelerate, and there's certain times where you need to slow down. There might be times where you need to completely turn around and do a U-turn. And there may be times where you slow and then make a turn one way or another, but you're constantly adjusting when you're driving a car. And you're telling me that's the way that your account should be, because you never really know what is coming next. And so when you said that to me, it really, really opened my eyes and made me realize that's the difference between putting on a bunch of individual trades and hoping they all work out, as opposed to having all your trades work together as a system to produce, hopefully consistent results at the end. And that was a big deal when you said that to me, Tim. I hope you're still using that analogy with your students. That was a good one for me.
I've got that and 1,000 other analogies. I'm the king of stories and analogies, I think. Having taught for as long as I have, I think people learn through stories and analogies. I think it's I know I do. And so I like to use a lot when I teach. But I'm glad you remembered that. You have to constantly make adjustments, right? You have to. And in trading, there are things that come up that you couldn't have possibly prepared for. One thing that people get stuck on is especially a certain type of person who learns in a very specific, detailed way, is when they have to make a subtle change from what is in their rule, okay? Like, for example, it says always trade a 20 delta. Well, I've actually had traders come in, Steve, and they'll say, well, why didn't you take that trade? And they said, well, it was a 22 delta. And my rule says 20 delta. I'm just like, well, now we need to talk about the difference between a guideline and a rule. And that can be hard for some people, but that just comes from experience as well. And building out your experience allows you to know where the margins are and what you can tweak here and there. The other thing is, and I think that the longer you do this and the more systems you see, and you have this perspective, is once you start to see how other traders build their system, then you can start to make them your own, okay? Because you start to be able to tap into the mindset and the psychology behind why things happen the way they happen.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tim. I think part of the problem I had when I was first starting out is everybody said you've got to learn how to develop your own system, or not learn how to, but you have to develop your own system. You got to move away from just having individual trades. And the problem was, back then, I knew what it was. I knew what they meant or what the outcome was supposed to be, but I didn't really know what a system looked like. It was kind of like saying, go and find the Rock of Gibraltar and you have an idea it's a rock, but you don't really know what it is. And so it wasn't until you gave me that analogy that that my eyes opened up, and I realized, hey, this is, what you're talking about is completely different than what I had envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a big deal to be able to take a system and then adapt it to your personality. Like there's a lot of times, Tim, where, me personally, I think of a 20 delta trade. I get a little scared. To me, that feels really close to the money at 20 delta. And that might be just because I got rocked in the past during the whole financial turmoil in business. So I usually come in, right around a 10 delta or less. But that's just my own rules,
Well, and that's important as well, because I even talk about that quite a bit when I'm teaching, is that, guys, what you want to do when you're testing out a strategy is maybe test different systems to see what you're comfortable with. Now, those can be in a back testing environment. They can be in a simulated environment. They can be in virtual trade. They can be just on a risk graph, but test out different things to see how they work. There's a dynamic difference between, say, 5 delta, 10 delta, 20 delta, 30 delta. The way that you build a position is very critical. Good traders are thinking about different construction models. If you haven't sat out there and thought to yourself, I wonder what the difference is between a 30 delta covered call and a 10 delta covered call. You haven't been, and you trade covered calls. That's another assumption, I guess, in this statement. Then you haven't been thinking enough, okay? You have to examine all of the different ways that you could execute your system to make it perfect. Now, it doesn't mean that there won't be, some gray areas, and it may not even be that you're not willing to do it one way in certain circumstances and then make a change in another market environment. But you kind of have to think through all the details, don't you, Steve? From where you build the trade to how you manage the trade.
Oh, yeah. You definitely need to have that going into the trade, and also the effect that it'll have on your system and what you want it to do overall. If you don't do that, it's a little bit kind of like driving a car without regard to the passengers in your car. You're just driving for yourself and not really thinking about how it affects the entire car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. We're sitting here talking with Steve Huang. Steve Huang is a trader in Southern California. He's been working in the financial markets since 2010. He actually started trading quite a bit before then. He took a bunch of classes from Tigrent. He actually took mentoring from myself, Tim Justice, who's here. And, we did 2 mentorships, one in 2010, one in 2011. We're sitting here and we're going through your journey, Steve. And Steve actually has, been a member of the tackle trading community now since its inception. We invited Steve over to be a part of that community, and you're over there quite a bit. Steve, what do you think of the website so far?
Oh, the website's awesome. What I've been doing a lot is looking at Gino's options report and then at Matt's top 25. I've actually made some good money off of Matt's top 25 selling naked puts against it. And Gino had a really nice call on REGN the other day, REGN. He had suggested, I think, like a 20-point wide bear call on it, which I took a look at the charts and I thought, hey, this is a really good one, and threw it on, and it worked out great. Worked out really, really good. So the team is really good over there. The community is great. People jump in really quickly on the clubhouse to help out other members when they have questions, and the podcasts are fun. The coaches shows are a blast. I love those.
Yeah, they are a lot of fun. It's about my favorite hour of the week, quite frankly, is doing that coaches show. I think it's pretty awesome to be able to get with traders like that and a community like that, where people understand their strategies and they're trying to learn and help each other. I think it's pretty awesome. And if you're out there and you're listening and you're thinking, well, how do I take action? Well, guess what? Listen to what Steve just talked about. Steve is a very accomplished trader, and he's still taking action on those reports, Go through the option report, make your own picks out of there, find the ones you like the best. The Tackle 25, Steve, I think had a really good quarter on naked puts and covered calls.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of traders out there, the longer I do this, especially for certain people who are still working full time or whatnot, simple and relatively easy to understand strategies like covered calls and naked puts are really good for a lot of people. They don't have to use every advanced six-legged monster that is invented by some crazy mad scientist trader like myself. Sometimes just the simple stuff works good. Yeah. Well, let's talk, because you've been doing something this year that I find to be very fascinating, and I'm very interested. Do you want to just kind of talk about it with the group?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'd love to. You want to kick it off, or you want me to kick it off?
Well, I'll tell you, Steve and I talk regularly. We had mentoring back in 2010, 2011. I would say we probably talked even 6-8 times a year, I would guess, even when we didn't have that much communication. And I'm talking outside of classes. You were in my labs for a long time, so we even had a weekly touch point. But we'd get on the phone once a month or so, once every 6 weeks, and kind of chat. I've got a lot of students like that. I love those, relationships I get a chance to build with my students, and they end up becoming colleagues, just like you have, Steve. Although I will always claim that I do have some kind of moral authority over you. So if
moral authority. Oh.
I don't know about right, kind of like a Jedi Padawan relationship.
I'd have to agree with that. When you tell me something, I have to agree. I listen. I don't. If some random guy or some random trader came up to me and told me something, you'd like to say I would give the same amount of credit in substance to that as if you said it. But the reality is, if you say it, I give a lot of credit to what you're saying. I listen a lot more closely. It's just because past experience, things that you told me before straightened me out, really made a tremendous difference in my career. So I don't know why I wouldn't listen. So,
well, I appreciate that. I really do. I am joking a little bit, but not all the way. My wife has told me that I've changed since she met me. Obviously, everybody does. When she met me, I was 24 years old, and I've been in the markets, then a mentor, a teacher now for 11 years. So, of course, that's going to change somebody. And one thing I've learned over the years, Steve, is that when I have knowledge and information that can help somebody, it's almost, I have an obligation to be as direct and helpful with them as I can. Now, sometimes that's not always patting them on the back. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's saying, listen, this is an area that there's a big red flag here, or this is something you have to address, or you have to understand, or you have to change, or you have to fix. I was talking to a trader just the other day, Steve, and he is a really bright guy. And he has capital to work with, and he has all the motivation in the world. But he has just a bug in him somewhere that wants to just do a little bit too much speculation. And so he can't get excited about like cash flow for some reason. Somewhere in his brain, he just can't. He just won't commit to it. And I think part of it is you hear traders crowing about all the money they made here on this one trade or that trade, and the dollar signs start flashing in your eyes, and you get those greed instincts kicking in. But at the end of the day, you've got to build your business out there, And so I do appreciate what you said, but a lot of that is just me doing my job. I wouldn't feel like much of a mentor if I wasn't direct when I needed to be direct.
It's also helpful though sometimes what you don't say. I don't know if you remember once, maybe like 2 years ago, I called you up and I said, Tim, I don't know what happened today. I broke every rule in my rule book. My position sizing was off. I entered when I wasn't supposed to enter. I did all these like crazy things. And I think afterwards you were listening. And then you're like, yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about it. What are you doing this weekend? That was about it. So what you were doing was, obviously it wasn't saying it's okay to break your rules like that much, but you were basically trying to calm me down, which was exactly what I needed at that time. And it turned out to be not a big deal at all. Next week I was fine and was right back on the winning track.
Well, I actually think that's a very important perspective in life, and I do remember that conversation because one of the times you call me regularly is when you have a great idea. You want to share it and bounce it past me, and I appreciate that. I love that. That's a regular phone call. When you want to talk about the Bears and bitch about them, that's a regular phone call. When you want to talk about the market conditions because something interesting is happening, that's a phone call. But every now and then you'll call me because you had a rough day, and it's not very often because you don't have that many rough days. But one thing I think it's important to remember in life is that business needs to be kept in perspective. And you've got to be able to go up there and the next time with confidence and execute your business. There are too many other things, and we kind of need to step back and put things in perspective. If a bad trading day unravels us at the seams and kind of pulls that one thread and the entire garment is now broken loose, we've got problems, because we've got to come back with as much vigilance and focus and execute the next time we have an opportunity to do it. So, and quite frankly, I think you need balance in life too. It doesn't do a lot of good to sit on a weekend and sit there and think, well, what could I have done different yesterday at 10:20 a.m.? I mean, especially now that you've got a young child, Steve, when it's time to be a father, it's important to be focused and be there and be present and be a father. When it's time to be with your friends or your family, it's important to do that. When it's time to go out and wash the truck, it's important to do that. I think that we need balance in life to be able to really succeed. Because so that when we know it's okay, here I am, it's time to trade, we know that's the environment I can stay focused in. And that's the environment I'm going to really work hard to just execute my system in. But anyway, yeah, I do remember that conversation. You were not happy with the market that day. I remember that.
But that was good advice. That was definitely good advice. You got me thinking about other things. And the great thing about it, just put it behind me. Stuff happens and, you'll make mistakes. But you move on and start making money again.
Is there like an honorary psychology degree or something? Because I should probably get one. Some university out there should probably send me an honorary degree because I've had to deal with more therapy sessions over the phone than I can even count. As many therapy sessions as trading sessions, by the way. Because really, at the end of the day, trading the markets, it's a real human thing. You have to examine your inner workings of your mind and the way that you operate. Because you have to be in control of your emotions. I know for some people out there, they probably think it's a cliche, but the emotional side of trading is just as important as the mechanical side of trading. You've probably dealt with that quite a bit over the years, Steve, and you've had success building a system. What have you just learned or seen or learned about yourself becoming a trader?
Oh, yeah, that's a big deal. It's a big deal. So I feel like every year there's a certain theme. There's one overriding thing that I learn in any given year that helps define what happened that year. And that, for me, that year was 2012. And in 2012, the main theme was traders' mentality or traders' emotional state is actually extremely, extremely fragile. Like you like to think that we're all very, very strong mentally, but the reality is, at the end of the day, we're discretionary traders. We make the decision as to when we're going to enter a trade, when we're going to pull the trigger, when we're going to get out, and that's all based upon our judgment. So, I still remember one time I was teaching my system to another trader because I thought, hey, maybe we could trade together as a team. And he started coming in and trying to make all sorts of adjustments to the system and say one thing or another. And I had to explain to him and tell him, well, this is why I do what I do or whatnot. And unconsciously, without me knowing it, some of those ideas went into my head and I started trading that way. And, my success rate is usually, above 90%. And all of a sudden, and for me, a good trading day is really, really easy. You put the trade on, you sit back, you relax, you collect your profits at the end of the day. You're bored to death. You're picking up the phone, looking to bug Tim or bug someone to talk to you. That's a good trading day. But, immediately my success rate dropped to 50%. And when I was making money, it was really hard. I was working it. And one day I finally decided I've had enough of this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at my trading journal. I'm going to analyze things and figure out exactly what I was doing wrong. And that's when I figured out unconsciously, I had adjusted things and started to trade a little bit along the ways of what this other trader had told me to do, without even me really fully realizing it. And at that point, I realized, hey, I got to shut this down. I shut it down, took a week off, cleared my mind, got everything, back in order, started trading it, and boom, immediately results went back up to 90%. So it's amazing. You like to think everyone's mentally strong, but the reality is we can be affected by things and sometimes not even really know it. And it's so important to be strong mentally when you're trading.
I remember having a conversation 5 or 6 years ago with a trader who he called me about 3 months after his mentoring. And he said, hey, do you got a few minutes to talk? And I said, sure. Give me 5 minutes to wrap up what I'm working on. I'll give you a call back. We get on the phone. We're talking. He says, Tim, I got to tell you, I appreciate everything you did. It's great. And I'm making money. But this is boring, And I said, okay, explain. And I listen. You know how I am. I listen until I'm not ready to listen anymore. And then I talk. And that's just my method of, I'm a pretty good listener. I take a lot of pride in that. I think as a teacher, you have to do as much listening as you do speaking. There's no question about it, because you have to get to know that person. And I listened and I listened and I listened. And really what it was, Steve, is he had gone to a Theta account and he was doing really well with it. Hedging, understanding it, taking profits, breaking legs, using the risk graph. Really understanding it. But Theta didn't really appeal to him. He wanted more action. And because he had come from trading futures, day trading the S&P E-mini index futures every day. And it wasn't working for him because his emotions weren't very good. And he said, Tim, I got to tell you, this is just boring. Is there anything I can do to change this? And I said, well, Neil Young has a great album. That Unplugged album they played for MTV. You can go back and listen to the old Ziggy Stardust album from David Bowie. You can find other things to occupy your brain, but don't change your trading. Okay, you don't have to have the trading part be exciting. In fact, if it's too exciting, it's probably because you're over leveraged or you're overthinking it.
Yeah, that's totally true. There's no need to make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. It's going to stand up anyway at certain times when the market does what it does, but there's no need to deliberately go looking for that.
Yeah.
It's, to me, making money and having it easy and having it just come flowing in regularly, I got to tell you, it's boring, but it's one of the most exciting things in the world. I love it. It feels a little bit like you're a magician. You just go away for a little bit and come back, boom, there's another 1,000 in your account.
Yeah.
Wow. Where did that come from?
Yeah, the exciting part is being able to mow your lawn at 2:30 on a Tuesday, because you can do whatever you want with your time. That's the exciting part. Run your business like a business owner. Focus your excitement on something else. Pick up archery. I don't care. Pick up art. Listen to great music, read a great book, whatever. But when you're focused on trading, be a business owner. Take the emotions out of it and really implement a system. And we keep using that word over and over again. And there's a reason we do. Because as traders, we know that any trader worth his salt has a system, or many systems actually. One that you've been working on, Steve, is your Theta Fade system. And you've been sending me your results and your videos weekly. You've been doing these little quick videos, kind of wrapping up exactly what you did for the week. Well, kind of tell everybody about that project and where we're at with it.
Yeah, this is something I'm really excited about, Tim. So what we've decided to do here at Tackle Trading is offer my system and give the opportunity for everyone who's interested to learn it and trade it on their own. So we've split it up into 3 different parts. The first one is I took $25,000 of my own money, put it into a separate account, and I'm theta fading with that live every single week. And what I love is that we're going to publish the results. Everyone's going to see how I've been doing. And Tim, we started on February 20th, so last Friday was a full 2 months since we started. And what I've done is at the end of each week, I've put together very, very high-level summaries of how I traded the markets that week. Now, Theta Fade is a system where you only trade it once a week on expiration Friday. So that means Monday through Thursday are probably the most boring times of your life because you have absolutely no trades on. You enter your trades in the beginning of Friday, and you leave the day flat with no positions on, unless your positions expire worthless. So it's kind of nice. So we'll publish the results every single week, and people will be able to see how that account has been developing and how it continues to develop. After that, what we're going to do is we're going to put together a video series where I'll actually teach the system from nuts to bolts, exactly how to position size, how to enter, how to identify good candidates, how to trade it, what do you do when it runs against you, stuff like that. All of that will be in the video tutorial. It'll come with a PowerPoint as well. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to have weekly webinars where it'll be subscription based, but I'll teach and talk in great detail about my trades. So whereas the weekly videos were high-level summaries, the weekly webinars are going to be very detailed. So I'll explain exactly why I entered or why I didn't take a trade, how I managed it, what was I looking at, things like that. And then I'll also give the people that are in the audience a chance to show me their trades as well, and I'll tell them how I would have traded it if I was in that situation. So I'm really excited about this, Tim. I think it's going to be fun.
Oh, I think it's going to be pretty awesome, actually, and I know that it will. And one thing that you decided to do, you decided to set up a completely separate account so that you could track this and show people out there how it may perform. What do you think, as you look at your system, first of all, do you think it's replicatable? Do you think other people could learn it and use it on their own?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think so. I've taught it to other people before, and they've picked it up. They've been able to trade it. And, what's the cool thing is some people have taken it and made little versions of it, and they trade their own version of the system as well because they adapted it to their own personality. But, yeah, it definitely can be taught. I think we had one of my old students on the podcast about a month or so ago. His name was Dan Yin, and Dan's done pretty well with that system too. And very often we'll contact each other during the day and we'll just trade together. And it's just a great feeling, really great feeling when you see somebody else trading the system and doing well. So yeah, anybody can learn it.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I know that if you're out there and you're thinking about, what do I want to do with my own business? And if you are looking for something where you don't have to leave overnight risk on, which is an important thing to understand. It goes back to what I was saying about the defense attorney and the prosecutor. You have to understand different systems, different perspectives in the market. Some traders don't like the idea of going to bed with risk out there in the market. Steve, this system avoids that as well. Is that an important part of it? And kind of maybe talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, that's a huge, huge part of it because there's Tim, I feel like trading is really, really hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. But at the same time, it's also one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. One of the things that makes it hard is when you have a position on and everything looks like it's okay, but news comes out after the market's closed. And you don't really know how the stock is going to react. You might see some movement in the aftermarket trading hours and some movement in the pre-market trading hours, but you don't really truly know how the market's going to react how that stock is going to react once the market opens. When the market opens, it could gap up tremendously in your favor or to your detriment, or it could move whichever way you want. The reality is you're not really in control at that time. And so that's something that I really didn't like about this. I don't like being caught off guard. And with this system, I specifically developed it so I don't have that kind of risk. I can enter and exit on the same day and not have any concern as to what's happening in the markets during the week.
Yeah. And that is significant, quite frankly. I personally do carry overnight risk. I have no problem with it. I've learned to balance my portfolio. I think I did a newsletter on this a couple months ago about dynamically hedging your portfolio. There are ways to carry a very big portfolio. In fact, I know a guy, Steve, In fact, the old guy who he's not old. I shouldn't call him old. His name's Tom Joseph. He's a good man, and he's an interesting trader. He built the mock trader software. Remember that old software? They discontinued it.
No.
It was EduTrader, I think, originally. Maybe when you had it, EduTrader.
Okay.
And then they called it Mock Trader, and then they renamed it, and they actually got rid of it. And he built a software called Options Dynamic, I believe is what it's called. But I remember the first time I met him, I've told this story quite a bit. He was out here teaching a group of mentors how the software works that we were going to show our students and use with our students. And up on the screen, he wanted to show us one of his positions to kind of give us an example. And he had to go into his account to kind of look for it. And I think, I didn't tally them all, Steve, but I swear there were 70 to 100 positions in his account. And I looked at it, and maybe I'm remembering all this wrong, but I looked at all these trades, whatever the number was, all these trades. And I thought to myself, this is back in like 2006 or 7, when I hadn't really had a portfolio like that quite yet. I usually was around 10 or 15 at the time. And I go up to him during a break. I said, Tom, how in the world do you manage all of those positions? He says, well, I watch my portfolio totals. I beta weight my delta, and I execute my system. And it just blew my mind. I mean, a light bulb clicked on, and it really started a journey for me over the years to help me get motivated as to moving in a direction to where I could do that. But that's a specific style. Not everybody can do that. Some traders are much better if they're in the market when they're in, and then when they're out, they're out. See, that's the theta fade system. I actually think it's one of the most appealing parts about it, is that you can run your business, and then when you're gone from the market, when you're out of the market, you're done. That way you can focus on your weekend. That way you can focus on going and fixing your bike or your truck or whatever it is. You don't have to worry about the capital that you have out there. As you've built this over the years, though, Steve, you've probably thought about using it in different ways. How often do you change it? How often do you tweak it?
I tweaked it a lot at first because I didn't really. I knew what I wanted in a system, and I was trying to build a system around that. So it was a matter of getting all those rules in initially. Now that the system is set, I don't change it too much. The system is pretty much ready to go now. And I like to say that as long as there's a high and low on the day, I can theta fade. It's okay. So the system is really built where if you see a high of the day, then you sell bear calls above the high of the day, or if there's a low, you sell bull puts below the low of the day. And the juice or the skill is really in identifying what is the true high of the day or what is the true low of the day. Mm-hmm. But with that said, there are times you have to tweak it. I don't think there's any system that you can set and say, okay, this is good for the rest of time, because sometimes the markets behave differently. Sometimes the markets will have a behavior where they'll open up and move in one direction and stay in that same direction for the rest of the day. And sometimes it'll be like that for 3-4 months at a time, or maybe even like half a year at a time. But then things will change. Earlier this year, there was a good amount of time where the market would head one direction during the day really aggressively and then do it about face and just come crashing down right afterwards and then recover and go another way. So the key is really recognizing those differences and then trading accordingly when it happens. Mm-hmm. And that's when you have to tweak your system a little bit when those things happen.
Sure. That's absolutely right. And you've learned to do that, but you've gotten to the point where this is a pretty dialed in system. And that's why you're ready to kind of present it out there to traders who, get into the program and purchase the classes and the videos and the whole thing and actually want to learn the system. We'll have more details on exactly what we're doing with that as it gets developed. But we're excited to present it out there to students, Steve. I know that a lot of people will really be able to use this and build it into their own life and help them make some changes in the way they trade. Where are your results so far over the year? I know you've been keeping track and you've got some records. Kind of talk to us about some numbers.
Yeah, things are looking pretty good. So I funded the account on February 11th with $25,000. And the first day I started trading was February 20th, 2015. And since then, so last Friday was April 17th. So the account has grown 11.85%. During that time, there's been 9 trading days. So over the course of 9 trading days, it's grown 11.85%. I've had 1 losing day in there. The rest have been all winning days. So this is pretty much on par. There's a couple days which were light, a couple days that were good, but overall it's looking pretty good. And total net profit is just a little less than $3,000 right now.
So let me make sure I understand the numbers. Let's reiterate them so everybody out there can follow along. So you've been trading it now for about 2 months, okay, which have been 9 different trading days because you traded on Fridays and expiration days. So 2 months of time, and over those 2 months, you've had nearly 12, just under 12%, is that right?
That's right.
So about 6% per month, or if you break it down per trading day, it's about 1.33% a day, just under 1.5%.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, per trading day, but you're only trading once every week. So guys, I mean, think out there if you're listening to the podcast, 5 or 6% a month. First of all, that's tremendous, Steve. Congratulations on that. That's great. Those are great numbers, especially when you can control risk and your time. A big part of that is actually that you only had to be there for 9 days to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice system. My personal goal, Tim, is to bring in 2 to 4% per week gross, and then 1 to 3% net. And the numbers are falling. The numbers fall right in line. The thing I like about it, Tim, is that we'll publish the results. I'll show my account; everyone can see it. It'll help people realize that hey, this is a cool system, and there's no funny business going on here. It's I think it's going to be a lot of fun, Tim.
I agree.
A lot. But there's two things, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about. One thing is, what are the drawdowns? What do they look like when they happen? Like when I have a losing day, are they disastrous, and do they just throw my account completely out of whack? And you'll see here that of the 9 trading days, I had 1 losing day. I lost 1.89% of my portfolio on that day, so a little more than $500, which is really not that bad. The following week, I came back and I made 2.37%. So I erased that loss and added a little bit to it. So that's the one thing that's really great, is the manageable drawdowns. The second thing is something you and I talk about every now and then, Tim. It's velocity of money. It's the thing that I love about it is you're turning over your entire account every single week. And so because you're turning over your account every single week, you don't have to make a whole lot of money on every single week. What you can do is make a smaller amount, but the thing is you're going to have a compounding effect, and by the end of the year, it's going to, hopefully it leads to a very nice return. And Tim, this was the strategy and the system that I used that really helped me get into the Rich Dad Hall of Fame. That was primarily what I was trading. And I always say I'm more of a second half player than a first half player, because the first half, the numbers look okay, but the second half is really where you get up in the higher numbers, where you see the 30, 40, 50% returns, things like that across your portfolio because of that velocity of money and the compounding effect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is a big part of why you got in the Hall of Fame. Quite frankly, though, I think one of the biggest reasons you got in the Hall of Fame was because of your journey and your story. That Hall of Fame, Steve, I think I talked to you about it at the time. It's not just about, how much money you've made. It's about what did you do with it, because, that organization, and I give them a lot of credit, Rich Dad Education, Robert Kiyosaki is a mentor of mine, in so many ways. They're all about mindset. There are a lot of people in this world that have made money, but did you capture the mindset? Did you change the way you approach money? Did you change the way you think about it? The fact that as an adult with a career, with an MBA and a law degree, you still went back and wanted to educate yourself about finances. And then not only did you do it, but you took a mentorship and then another mentorship. And then you continued to grow your network and your mindset. And you even After you were a trader, Steve, think about this. You continued to buy systems. You continued to study systems. You're still doing that today. Just over the weekend. I mean, you're watching and reading information at tackletrading.com from some of the coaches over there. I mean, this is a mindset you've embraced. And so if you're out there and you're listening to the podcast, or if you've heard Steve before, I want you to think about that. What am I doing to continue my education? And one thing that you're going to have an opportunity to do here very soon is you're going to have an opportunity to learn directly from Steve as well as the other coaches at Tackle Trading. Steve, I'm excited to get that whole project up off the ground. I know we've been working hard on it, and you've been working really hard on it. We probably kind of don't want to overpromise. I'm always a believer in setting the bar low so that we can easily get over it. Maybe a couple months out, I'm thinking maybe from here. Is that about right?
I think so. I think it'll be, I think we're going to have a really good product at the end, and the members are going to really like it and learn a lot from it. And I think a couple months is right on track.
What we could possibly do is start putting out some of those videos that you've already done about what Theta Fade currently is, like just some of the results videos, and give people an idea. We might be able to go through a few of those and get them up on the website so people understand it. You and I will talk about that. We'll come up with a plan. We'll come up with a plan on when to do it, but I know we're excited. We're going to make sure that people out there can learn and really study a lot of different things. At Tackle Trading, they've got opportunities to do naked puts and covered calls and Forex and futures and commodities. We've got a new commodities report that I've been doing, options, Theta Fade. I mean, there's so many different things. And remember out there, guys, a trader, one of your jobs as a trader is to study and to think about market dynamics, okay? It doesn't mean you have to change your system every time another trader says they do something a certain way. In fact, you have to actually build your own. You have to really at some point say, this is what I'm going to focus on and this is what I'm going to do. And for many of you, that may be Theta Fade, and I'm excited about it. Steve, I think we're about done here. Do you got any final words of wisdom for our listeners out there?
What I'll say is this, is I think Theta Fade is awesome, personally. But I think what's more important is the mindset, like you were talking about before, Tim. When, I still have the same mindset today as I had back then, which I felt like every week I want to make sure I come back and be a better trader this week than I was last week. And I want to make sure next week I come back as a better trader that week than this week, and so on and so forth. And it doesn't have to be big strides. Just learn something. Take a step forward, learn something to make yourself better. And that way you're continuously evolving. You're going to eventually get to the point where you want to be. And so just keep pushing ahead and don't get discouraged. Right now it's all about learning, and you'll get there one day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been listening to the Trading Justice podcast with Steve Huang and Tim Justice. Phil, thanks for producing this today. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us a lot of different places. But one of the best is to go to tackletrading.com and listen to the podcast there. Make sure you sign up for Tackle Trading. Catch the videos that are put out there every day, pretty much, different stuff throughout the week. Become a pro member if you want those reports, the Tackle 25, the options report, the commodities report, the Forex report, and the upcoming equities report. We do our coaches shows on Tuesdays, and they're always recorded for you to be able to go back and watch them back later. Steve, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. I'm going to play this. We're going to see how this one goes. I've got a little outro that one of our gals put together. We'll see how this plays out, but we'll see you guys on the website.
You've been listening to the Trading Justice podcast. If you've enjoyed yourself and think that the conversations and topics we've covered are important, help spread the word. Give us your feedback. 5 stars on iTunes, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. The Trading Justice podcast is proudly sponsored by TackleTrading.com. Get off the sidelines and get in the game.